evening. So happy to see all of you here. I want to welcome everybody to this meeting, the very first one in 2018 of the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners. We're so pleased to have all of you. We have some special things happening tonight, so we're glad that you're all here for that. We are going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Braylon Yarborough. You can step up. Braylon is a sophomore at Eastwake High School. He lives in Wendell, and his parents, Tony and Mavis Yarborough, and sister Brianna Yarborough. Braylon is an honor student at Eastwake High School and was awarded the highest world language award in the 9th grade. He's a member of the National Spanish Honor Society, the Interact Club, the Beta Club, and Pass It Forward Club. Braylon played football for 2 years on the JV football team, ran outdoor track team for 2 years, and ran on the indoor track team for 1 year, all at Eastwake High School. On the JV football team, he has earned accolades such as Iron Warrior Award and has been included in the Academic Hall of Fame. He also supports his community by being a counselor at Jam Camp and volunteering at his local church and food pantry. Braylon is a current member of the Eastwake chapter of the NC State Upward Bound program. He received the Upward Bound Academic Scholar Award given to all students who maintained a GPA of 4.0 or higher. Congratulations, that's outstanding. He recently was nominated and selected to attend the, I guess it's pronounced Hobie, North Carolina East Leadership Seminar this past summer. Braylon is inspired to strive in life by the Bible verse, "No weapon formed against thee shall prosper." We are so proud of you, and I want to thank you for all of your academic We just want to recognize you tonight, and now you can just lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our invocation tonight is from the Wendell Council of Churches, and we have Greg Lane of Wendell Baptist Church with us. Thank you so much. It's good to see you again today. I think twice today.
Absolutely. Please join me in going to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to come together and talk to you. We want to thank you for our many blessings, Lord, for they're far beyond anything that we deserve. Tonight, we'd like to say a special thank you for the opportunity to live and enjoy this town and this community. Thank you for that blessing. Tonight, Lord, we ask for each one of us to have patience and understanding and wisdom and ultimately the love for you, so that all that is done and is said is to your glory. Please help get each one of us home to our loved ones safely. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you very much. Do I have any adjustments of the agenda? Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Mayor, motion to approve today's agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
And we have one person signed up for public comment tonight, Cynthia Daniels Williams. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us. Good evening. Tell us your name and address.
My name is Cynthia Daniel Williams, and I live at 203 Belladonna Circle, Roseville, North Carolina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, good evening. My name is Cynthia Daniel Williams, and I am the Vice President of Knightdale Wake Forest Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I greet you on behalf of our President, Jawan C. Mitchell, and the other 180 members of our chapter. Our sorority was founded January 13th, 1913, on the campus of Howard University by 22 illustrious collegiates. Our organization's mission, since its inception, has rallied around our commitment to public service and social action. This started with our sorority's participation in the Women's Suffrage March in Washington, D.C. on March 3rd, 1913. Our chapter, one of the corporation's more than 1,000 international chapters, was chartered May 11, 1996, with the premises that our public service would be extended in Wake County to the county's rural areas. Our service areas include Knightdale, Wake Forest, Wendell, Zebulon, Roseville, Jonesville, and parts of Northeast Raleigh and Youngsville. I'd like to highlight a few of our public service events in the town of Wendell. Our annual Thanksgiving food drive, where we deliver baskets of food to residents in Wendell during the Thanksgiving holiday. Our White Stocking Project, where we deliver toiletries and socks to residents of assisted living homes in Wendell, specifically the Oliver House. Our Triangle Area 2015 Candidates Forum, where we invited municipal candidates to an open forum to introduce themselves to the citizens of the areas in our service area. This includes Wendell. Our Voter Registration Drive, which is an ongoing initiative for our chapter that promotes the registration of residents in our service area, which includes Wendell, and encourages them to exercise their right to vote. Lastly, on August 22nd, 2015, we launched our first annual East Wake Community Day Back to School celebration right here in the town of Wendell at Trinity Faith Full Gospel Church. We distributed approximately 100 backpacks to students and held informative sessions for both children and adults on pertinent topics such as domestic violence, positive interaction with law enforcement, and financial fortitude. I'd like to recognize the Knightdale Wake Forest Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's members who are here tonight. Would you please stand? Mayor Virginia Gray, Wendell Town Commissioners, and other members of the town's governing board, we are here tonight to show our commitment to social action and public service in our service area. We'd like to introduce our chapter to you. See us, note and memorize our names and faces as we look forward to working with you in the future growth and development of the town of Wendell. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you make sure to leave some contact information for us to be provided? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yes, go
Just
ahead.
want to say, as someone that grew up in the Greek community going through college, I appreciate the Thetas being here. I understood anytime we had a philanthropy event in college, we could count on you all, and I look forward to being able to count on you all around town. It's a great group, and I enjoyed working with them in college, and I think it'll be fun working with you in Eastern Wake County.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. All in favor? Okay, item number 4 is the recognition of Eastwake High School teacher Allison Reynolds. You can come stand at the podium, please, Ms. Reynolds. Allison was raised as an Army brat, these are her words, not mine, moving all over the country and attending multiple elementary, middle, and high schools. This instability taught Allison the value of kindness, compassion, and making friends quickly. After graduating from Ashley High School in Wilmington, North Carolina, Allison went to be chosen as a presidential scholar at Greensboro College, where she majored in biology and minored in chemistry and psychology. Allison's lifelong desire to become a teacher was realized shortly after her 2008 graduation. After teaching first in Guilford County, Alamance County, and New Hanover County, Allison found a more permanent home as an East Wake High School warrior. She has become a process champion for Capturing Kids' Hearts process and is a junior class student government advisor. Allison is thrilled to be working with the staff and faculty that share her goals of educating the entire child and approaching classroom problems with empathy and kindness. Allison was overwhelmed to be chosen as Teacher of the Year this school year and is wildly grateful to all of her mentors and friends who have helped build her into the educator she is today. I want to congratulate you for being selected as Teacher of the Year at Eastwake High School, and we just wanted to thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. Item number 5 is a presentation by Eastwake High School Principal Stacy Alston. Mr. Alston?
Mayor Gray, I know that you're very comfortable up there, but I would like for you to come to the podium. Mayor Gray has been a huge supporter of Eastwake High School since my tenure there in 2015. She's always an email, telephone call away. Anything that the school needs, I can just pick up the phone, ask. She was the grand marshal in our homecoming parade. The kids love her to death. We see her constantly at the school. Anytime we need anything, she's there for us. If it's talking to kids, giving advice, she gave me some advice. We had a bit of a challenge, and we had a conversation, and she gave me some great advice about that, and it worked out. So thank you for that. And so we partnered with the Army Golden Knights for our homecoming presentation. I'm not sure how many of you were able to see that, where they actually brought the homecoming game ball in parachute, via parachute. I think people on 64 was trying to figure out what was going on because it was sparks coming all the way down to the stadium until they got there. And they asked us, who would you recognize who's been a huge supporter of the school and you would like to recognize them? And the first person that popped in my mind was you, Mayor Gray. And so on behalf of your continued support of East Wake High School, we would like to present you with this signed plaque from the Golden Knights in warm regards to Mayor Virginia Gray.
Caught me off guard. Thank you very much. It was very kind. Item number 6 is the recognition of the Wendell Rams Mighty Mites, past year Super Bowl champions. And who are we going to hear from? Tookie? I was going to say, Tookie, I know you're not going to let this opportunity go past you.
Well, we're honored to be recognized by you folks here to call us in. It's a special honor. We have achieved something this year that makes us proud, and we hope that it's something that you'll recognize. A lot of hard work was put into what we accomplished this year, and we had tremendous children. We dedicated about 4.5 months and 4 camps before the season started with these children. And we have 4 coaches here tonight, and they were like Braylon. They played just like Braylon did for me. And it's a special recognition to be honored for winning a Super Bowl. It really is. But the time spent with these children and these coaches and being part of the Wendell program is something special. I was raised in Garner as a boy, and that's where I got my football from. And my 43 years in Wendell, it's been 40 years with the Wendell Rams, and I love my town. I love its people. I love the football program. I love recreation in Wendell. And it was truly an honor. Now, the excitement that night was unbelievable. At my age, and winning that ball game was tremendous. You don't want to put so much emphasis on a ball game, but you were so proud of being a part of something that's so nurturing as what I went through. My time at will probably be, I want to coach on for a good while. I want to be part of something that's really special. And these guys over here, if you only knew these young guys over here and how hard they do work. If it were a business, they would be top level. They're dedicated. They're relentless in their efforts to succeed. They don't holler and scream at these children. We don't do that. They bring a lot to the table for the community. And I'm proud to be associated with these young guys and this program. We get along great together. It's a non-paying job that it rewards you significantly. And for you to call us in tonight is really, it's special, you know. We appreciate it. And there was something that I could ask of you is maybe sometime in the future that we might put a water fountain out at that field for some of the children there that come and play, that there's not a water fountain there when we're not there, but it's okay. Y'all have been, you commissioners and mayor, y'all have been very supportive of us, and we've got a tremendous program down here in football. Lynn Boykin is our president right there, and he's an all-in type guy, just like myself and the rest of the coaches there. And these special children accomplish so much. 3 or 4 of the teams we played are hand-picked teams. They go after all-star boys. And that was evident when we lined up in the championship and look at their size and the programs that are so big, the towns that are so big, and we compete with them. So we have some great kids here. And I'd like for my coaches to stand up, if you will. These are the guys that make it happen right here.
Well, I want to thank y'all for being here tonight, and I especially wanted to congratulate you. I was real proud to be there with you that night.
Thank you. That was special.
And you know, people don't know this, but Cookie's been coaching a long time around here, and I believe this was your first Super Bowl championship win, and you earned it.
Thank you,
those
ma'am.
boys were a lot bigger than our boys. When they were lined up, they were head and shoulders taller and bigger. And I was real proud of our young men, and we're real proud of the Wendell Rams family and your organization and how you represent us out in the world. And I want to thank you for that as well.
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
for all that you've done for 40 years worth of young men, including my 2.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, thank you for that. And I look forward to next year.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't we take about 2 or 3 minute recess so y'all can take some pictures if you would like to, okay? All right, we're in recess.
I'll make sure my chair is over.
All right.
So nobody really knows what it is like?
No, I know what you mean, but Jim, how we doing? Good, how you doing tonight? Great.
All right, let me grab mine.
All right, who's number 1?
Thank you. Let's see if we can get some. How you doing? Y'all back in school, y'all went to school today, yes, we're gonna let y'all.
They took. That's good. Good.
Where are you at on the
I'm rooting for Joe.
Joe?
Because I know him and he came and kind of.
Well, I seen your reference for the other one.
Well, the other one was one who put me as a reference, but didn't ask me if I could be a reference.
Okay.
That was it. It's okay. Absolutely, man. Congratulations. Good seeing you. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, that was one of those ones where I was like, okay, that's a reference. So, and he came to me and said, hey, this is the way I'd love to feel. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll vouch for you. So, he's good with things at church. I think he'll be good with this one. Hey, Brandon. How you doing,
Hey,
man?
how are you? Brandon Strickland. David, nice to meet you.
Good to see you. Good, man. You doing all right? Good, good, good.
Doesn't always come out that way, I don't think. Yeah. I don't know.
You don't know that connection?
No.
I don't know.
He didn't invite me to his party. He didn't invite me.
up for mayor? I think it's more fun.
And then,
Fun. I mean,
I seen Chad song too.
Chad. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just didn't
He's
know.
kind of a,
I didn't know.
celebrity chaser a little bit too. I think he likes, being in with people, you know?
I was just wondering.
Yeah. His wife, yeah, his wife's expecting again, number 5. Lord have mercy. Can you imagine?
Okay. Heard the news? Yeah, well, I meant to yesterday with congratulations. I was told about it, but we were kitchen and got remember. I kind of forgot about it yesterday. Yeah, hope at least drive us out there. Yeah. Yeah. We were just down Friday night. We went down. Phone rang. We got called or phone rang. I don't know. Nothing's fun about it. So, yeah, we actually got the news today. I think the news by the time we picked up, they're back to they're there. Kind of covered off the police station. Inspection everything there. And I'm trying to. Don't fall. I'm trying to get a crowd. Yeah, because I was like, I can use the golf course. I can get it further. Yeah. Blazing trails. There you go. That's right, at church land. All right, cool. Any fast one tonight?
You ready to go home and watch Alabama and Georgia?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. It's be a good one.
I know people want to watch football games.
Yeah. We start watching. Everybody wants to watch.
Yeah.
Start the season again, I guess. You okay?
Okay. Back in order. Item number 7 is an update on Wake County Fire Commission from Lucius Jones, who's the municipal representative for the town of Wendell. You're very welcome. How are you tonight?
Thank you.
Good.
I will not take more than 45 minutes, I
Okay.
promise.
Start the clock.
There is a ball game on tonight, I know, so I'm well aware of that. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and just maybe give you a quick report on what we're doing at the Fire Commission. The Fire Commission only meets once every other month, so we don't have a lot of things, but we work on a lot of things during that time. One of the last things we've been involved in is realigning the fire districts. Through annexations and growth, the fire districts and the insurance districts had kind of got out of line. So we are going through the process and have done Eastern Wake County, where we take the areas to try to match them up so they're the closest to the stations or where the people are served. So Wendell actually gained some territory. We had to swap some with Zebulon and Knightdale and East Wake, but it wound up Wendell actually gained some of the area out of that, but that's good. We've gone through a staffing situation where we've tried to determine the staffing that was needed for each of the county fire departments, and those who needed more people hopefully got them. And of course, Wendell did wind up with an additional employee to doing the staffing review. Some stations actually lost some people and some gained some, but Wendell gained, so that was good. We had also did a program where we went through trying to evaluate the equipment for the departments. Some stations basically had more trucks than they needed, and some stations had less trucks than they needed. So we went through a process where we evaluated that and moved some of the equipment around. Luckily, Wendell did not lose any equipment, and We have gained a new one that we'll be getting in this coming year, I believe. But the idea that we're going to be opening a new station in Wendell in the near future played into that fact that we will continue to keep all the equipment plus hopefully an addition. Currently we're working on insurance to see if we could probably come up with some program or where we can, all fire departments can have insurance through the same vendor. Each one now has different vendors, and we just felt like there can be a cost savings in trying to consolidate. Our budget season is coming up. Fire department budget for Wake County Fire Departments is $24 million. Of course, this is divided out and issued out to each of the 18 departments. So we go through a budget process every year where the individual departments submit a proposed budget to the county, and of course a committee of the fire commission goes over those with the staff, and then they come up with a proposed budget, which then goes to the county manager, and then from the manager to the county commissioners. But that process is it's a good process, but at the same time, just like all departments know, there's never enough money. Just try to do the best you can with what you got. This is one reason that we've tried to put so much emphasis this past 2 years on trying to make the departments more efficient, trying to get more bang for the buck. And we've, I think, made a lot of progress in doing that. But, I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can if anybody's got any.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
The position that you mentioned, that's a new permanent position?
Yes.
I appreciate Mr. Jones. This was one of my first tasks when I got on the fire board was the fact that they had a station on one shift that was running a truck with just 2 people, and there was several, but Mr. Jones helped get immediate funding for that, and I'm happy to hear that they now got that full-time funding. I appreciate that, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll hear from you again in a couple months.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Item number 8 is a public hearing continued from December 11th on zoning text amendment to chapters 11 and 17 of the UDO as they relate to street lights.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. As you just stated, this is a continuation of the public hearing from our December meeting dealing with streetlight policy. Some of that falls within our UDO. Some of it falls within a separate policy document. This is something that just really come to our attention more as we're getting larger development, more development interest in terms of what are the long-term costs, and in some cases even short-term costs of our current streetlight policy, and looking at enacting some changes to try to make it fiscally better for the town, and often fiscally better for the developer in terms of their upfront costs as well. At our last meeting, you'd asked for some additional financial data to really get down into the costs of this. So I gave you some additional attachments that you have included. As attachment C is a kind of a really detailed table, and then you also have kind of a bulleted points that talk about the existing policy versus the proposed policy. I also provided some visuals to kind of show you what are we talking about, because there's a lot of different, when we talk about upgraded poles, and sometimes we say poles, sometimes we say posts, so I wanted to make it clear what are we really talking about. So on the screen before you, what you see on the left side, that's more of your traditional road lighting. That's a 25-foot tall wood pole with an arm fixture that would then extend out. That is what's currently under our existing policy, the standard street light, the 25-foot tall wood pole with an arm extending out. On the right side, you'll see a pedestrian post. So the posts are typically more 16 to 18 feet tall rather than 25-foot tall. They're typically more decorative. They're going to be fiberglass, and they have different head or globe options at the top. The one displayed there is one of your more basic pedestrian posts in terms of how decorative they are and how expensive they are. So I mentioned that we have the detailed table that I can go into if needed, but I wanted to really just start with kind of the bulleted points that really hit the highlights So as I stated, right now, under the current policy, a 25-foot tall wood pole is our standard lighting. That's what the town pays for. By year 11, if someone did pedestrian lights under the current policy, they would have to pay us an upfront cost to try to make up that difference on a per pole basis, how much more that pedestrian post costs compared to your 25-foot tall wood pole. And that costs the developer a lot up front, and it helps the town with the costs, but at the 20-year mark, which is what they're kind of paying that cost difference over, even before that point, the town actually is still paying more because our current policy doesn't really account for the fact that you now have twice as many posts, because these pedestrian lights are going to be every 150 feet compared to those 25-foot tall poles can be spaced out every 300 feet. So doing our calculations, we determined that by year 11, the town, even with that upfront cost that the developer is paying the town, is paying more for those street lights than if it were a standard wooden pole 300 foot on center. By year 20, the town's paying about twice as much for the pedestrian lights. By year 40, you're looking at more like 3 times as much. I used Foxborough as an example in that cost table, which has 85 lots. But looking at something that's a little bit more substantial, I took those figures and multiplied it by 3, so that's how I got to that 255 lot example. If you use the Mitchell open fixture, which is one of the pedestrian posts that I give as an example in that cost table, that would cost $612,000 to the town over 40 years compared to about $200,000 or $196,000 over a 40-year period. Now, granted, that's over 40 years, but that's still a lot of money, and take that number and think about now thousands of lots rather than 250 lots, and it really adds up considerably over time. For a 250 lot subdivision, the developer's upfront fee can get quite substantial as well under the current policy. If they chose pedestrian lights, that could be anywhere from $140,000 to $265,000 of upfront cost to a developer when we're asking them to pay that 20 years up front. So that upfront payment that we have in our current policy, worked reasonably well when people were doing 50 lots, but when that number starts to go up, it gets to be a really hard burden on the developer day one and a really hard burden on the town over time. So that's why we're looking to enact a change. So what we're proposing is a few things. One, we'd be looking at changing the standard street light. So rather than a 25-foot tall wood pole, what we're looking at is a 25-foot tall fiberglass pole. That's not something that's necessarily saving the town money. That's just something where the cost difference is pretty marginal. You're looking at about $1 difference per pole, and we just thought that's a nicer look for the town. But where we're really looking to try to be more financially responsible from a town standpoint is how it relates to the pedestrian posts, those 16 to 18 feet tall posts that you're seeing in most of our subdivisions that have occurred since 2000. For a 250 lot subdivision, using that standard pole with the fiberglass poles, it would cost about $12,000 more to the town over 40 years compared to a wood pole. So over 40 years, $12,000 is pretty marginal. So we felt comfortable from a staff town point, and that's why we're kind of recommending that change. But if you look at the pedestrian poles that under the proposed policy, it would have to be something the developer's choosing to do. One of the changes would be we're not going to require pedestrian posts except for in our DMX district, right in the heart of downtown. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to do it. It'd be something they'd be choosing to do if they wanted to. But if they chose that, then we're looking to make it so it doesn't hit the town as hard over time. So if you look at a 250 lot subdivision where the developer chose to do pedestrian posts, under the proposed policy, that cost of the town would be reduced by anywhere from $258,000 to $383,000 compared to the existing policy, and that range is just due to which specific pole they choose, because there's cost difference per pole. So who's bearing this cost under the new policy? If they want pedestrian posts, the developer is no longer paying this large upfront fee. The town's not absorbing all this cost in perpetuity. Instead, what we're saying is that under the new policy, if you want these upgraded pedestrian posts, then the developer would need to form an HOA that would then assume responsibility for them, and the town would reimburse the HOA what our cost would be just for our standard fiberglass 25-foot poles. So we'd pay that amount that we know we'd normally pay anyways to the HOA, but they'd be otherwise paying for the rest of that upgraded cost. So I wanted to look at, well, what does that mean to the HOA or to the individual residents living within the subdivision if their subdivision chose or their developer chose to put in these posts? So I used, again, the Foxborough Crossing subdivision as an example, and they have a minimum lot width of 60 feet. They're probably more 70 or 80 feet on average wide. So for that, using that lot width and the amount of roads they have, it came out to be that each dwelling would pay anywhere from $3 to $5 per month to their HOA fees for this upgraded post in order to cover the cost of that upgraded light, depending on what they chose. If this were something denser, like Wendell Falls, or not even that far, that cost would go considerably down because you have a whole lot more lots along the same stretch of road that doesn't need any more lights to light it. So those are really the big bullet points for existing versus proposed in this policy. You have an actual policy document that goes along with it that we sent to the attorney. That really gets more into just the timing, kind of some of your more procedural elements, how you might have to allow for encroachments for DOT roads and things of that nature. But within the UDO, in these changes in Chapter 11 and 17, you kind of have to hit the high points of how this is changing from the town, paying a lot more for these pedestrian posts over time compared to where this is now much more of a voluntary thing. There's less districts that would require it. Instead, it's just something that if they chose to do, okay, but they'd need to establish an HOA to kind of cover that cost with the town reimbursing them. So just to reiterate, under the new policy, the only district that would require the pedestrian post is the DMX. Otherwise, it wouldn't be required. And the road lighting would be every 300 feet. That hasn't changed. And pedestrians would be every 150 feet. That hasn't changed. Let's see this. The planning board, just as a reminder, they did recommend approval with one change, which was just to make it so that these lighting requirements didn't apply in the residential agricultural district, or RA, and to leave the rural residential district as having a 300-foot spacing. And that's what's included with your ordinance for adoption. The staff is in favor of this, both the UDO amendments as well as the policy that's been included. And you have, so staff, if you're prepared to do so, requesting action, which would just be to adopt those two documents, and there is a statement of plan consistency included with the ordinance.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Bergmark? Do I need to re-poll the audience to see if anyone wishes to speak, since we're picking up on a public hearing, or we already?
Yeah, it was continued. So
Yes, to be safe, okay. If anyone would like to speak for or against the changing the UDO regarding the street lights, you can step forward and be sworn. We have one, Ms. Clark. Okay, never mind. Go ahead, let's hear it. You can speak, go ahead.
I didn't come to speak on this tonight, but I do have an interest in that because I am a developer. And, in the past, we have tried to get away from the, regular street lights and put in more attractive pedestrian lights. And, we've been able to do that so far under the current regulations. I see what we're doing here is trying to cut down on the cost eventually of the street lights. But the street lights are paid for by tax money. And the homes are taxed to pay for these street lights. So the nicer homes you have, the nicer lights you have, the more tax you're going to get. So I can kind of see here what we're going to do is go drive the developer back to just put in a plain street light. And it may not look as attractive, and it may not be as appealing. So I really don't quite understand why we want to change from what we're doing. I just think that the ambiance of nice pedestrian lights adds to the town and the value of the town. Developers will just go back to putting in the regular street lights. And I thought that was something that we kind of tried to get away from and try to get more attractive streetlights in Wendell. So, I don't know, I don't know enough about it to tell you a better way, but I'm just saying it just appears to me that we're gonna be driving developers back to just start putting in plain old streetlights.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Gentlemen, what's y'all's pleasure?
Make a comment, and I appreciate Mr. Bergmark with the chart there. And my initial concern was, in requesting that chart was, cost and where the cost goes. So I do appreciate visually letting us see that and coming up with an option that, while it's a very plain street light, is essentially keeps the developers' costs where they were, because my fear was that we were going to come in with something super fancy and that was going to become cost prohibitive on people that are trying to come into town and build. That said, I share some of Mr. Jones's concerns that I'd like to hear what others have to say on it. Do we have the balance right in making it so the folks are going to build what they want to build? I don't know. I'm not a builder. I don't know where that breaking point is. Certainly Wendell Falls is going to put in what they want to put in, but and other communities will put in what they want. But I'm hoping that we've hit the balance right here, and I can look at the numbers and tell you that there's definitely incentives on each end, but I don't know what the building community would, generally speaking, pick.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Jones has brought up a very good point, and I think Commissioner Joyner as well, in that it is a balance, and what we are starting to discover is that the developments are getting much larger, and it is putting a hardship on the developers in the beginning because of the cost up front. And I agree, it is a balancing act, and certainly the board can make its decision, or we could, even work with other developers and to look at some different scenarios of what those costs are. I think we're in pretty good shape when it's a 50-lot subdivision with the cost up front, but the larger ones that we're starting to see, it is starting to cause a hardship on the developer, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars up front, and we're getting that balance is very strict.
The percentages aren't changing, correct? I mean, so Mr. Jones is putting in 50 lots and Wendell Falls is putting in 250. The percentages on what they're running cost on these lights are not changing.
Right, just cause the numbers of homes.
Right, but so everything is to scale is my point.
Yeah.
The out of cost or out of pocket expense for Mr. Jones is the same as the big expense for the bigger developer. I mean, everything's to scale. So I don't know that that's an argument, but I think we should hear from some more of the developers and just see, get some more feedback on it, really.
Okay, so what do you suggest, Ms. Piner, as far as feedback and stuff?
I would like for us, maybe staff to work with a couple of developers in different situations, propose and lay
Different sizes.
and to look at what that cost is and where they feel that breaking point is. Aesthetics, where we have aesthetics to look at. We have upfront costs to the developer, and then we have the long-term costs to the town. And I think we've got three parts there, and to take a look at it, and we'll be glad to meet with 2 or 3 other developers and lay this out and get their input.
Okay.
I think just tell probably goes without saying at this point, but if Wendell Falls could be included in that, and, I think Mr. Jones has a track record of building something different, at least those two, and whoever else you guys decide to bring in, but.
Pick this back up in a month, maybe?
I think so. I think we can meet with Ms. Jones fairly, soon. We've had some feedback from Wendell Falls, and, to look at, someone else and, bring them in, just get that builds in our area to get.
What was the, feedback from Wendell Falls?
Wendell Falls was the costs are
Upfront costs.
millions up front. Again, not all at one time, but they are taking down hundreds of lots at a time. And we have a separate light agreement that we are working through with them because of the millions up front that, were not put into their analysis for lighting for the development.
Can we look at whatever that lighting agreement was with other developers and see if maybe you guys had a standard, you augmented it to deal with Wendell Falls, see if whatever you guys came up with there, if it's different than this, if that works too?
We're good? Meet with others.
Okay. Do we need that in the form of a motion to come back?
Did
I
you
closed
close the public hearing?
Yes, I did.
Why don't you reopen the public hearing?
Yeah, this is all starting to get on my nerves a little bit. Okay, we're reopening the public hearing.
And then you can continue it to the next
And we
meeting.
need a motion to continue it till next time. Somebody give me that?
Make a motion to continue this public hearing until next meeting.
Okay, all in
Next time.
favor?
All right.
All right. All right, number 9 is vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Ms. Scoggins.
Okay. On October 18th, Mr. Hardison submitted a letter of resignation from the Parks and Rec Commission due to a new work commitment. His vacancy opened an in-town position with a term expiring June 30th, 2020. At our November 27th board meeting, the board directed staff to notice the vacancy. Notice was posted on the town's Facebook, Twitter, website, and the downtown kiosks. Additionally, during the annual recruitment, more applications were received than there were seats available, and contact was made with one of those candidates who was not appointed, and she requested to have her application placed into consideration for this evening's agenda. So this evening you have a ballot before you for the following applications that were received and were included in your agenda packet. And in accordance with our Code of Ordinances, ballots have been given to each of the members so that you may cast your vote. Okay. The board has selected Ms. Lorinda, and I'm not even going to try that last name, and I'll be following up with the candidates this week on the board's decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 10, get to it here, is our snapshot.
Madam Mayor, since the agenda went out, the bond with the blue, we had that scheduled for, it said late February. We actually have that for you the date that we have is Wednesday, February the 22nd,
Okay.
8 to 10. That would be at Edward Jones at 22 North Main. So the details have been added since
Okay.
you have received this. In addition, we continue to follow up with the railroad on trying to have improvements at Hollybrook Road and DOT, and have not heard any response from the railroad since DOT had requested a schedule when they would be in attendance and need their assistance, and I have not heard back myself from the railroad. Commissioner Joyner had asked for stormwater regulations. We continue to gather from additional areas, and we have some more towns that we have added to that list. We will try to get those reviewed this week and send those out to the board, and following up with that. Also, just with tracking the vehicles, when this was prepared, we said no new invoices had come in. Actually, the invoices for the police vehicles at $145,000 have come in, and so again, we will be updating that. But that came in since this went out, that invoice. So I wanted to let you know of those updates. Part of the project has been completed. The game courts have been.
But there's nothing we can remove at this time, but the part that could be removed.
I would say the part of yes.
Okay, well, let's take that off. And, this railroad track situation is befuddling to me. Someone's going to have some damage to their cars, and I feel like we're getting backburnered on that.
Connor, can you copy me tomorrow? Would you mind sending, I know the last email I saw, we put the responsibility on the railroad to contact DOT.
Yeah.
And we try to get whoever, I think his name was Matt, the individual from DOT, that can we try to get a group email going? And if you'll CC me on that, I'll make sure to chime in when necessary.
Okay, be glad.
I just happened to notice as I was riding by on Wendell Falls, but there were 3 Carolina Railroad vehicles working on that crossing. Well, it was before the snow. And I was going to stop, but they appeared to be busy. They were working on the crossing arms, I do believe, or some with the signal there. So, I mean, they're coming around doing some sort of maintenance, but not on the ones that perhaps needed the most. Also, the vehicle, the track maintenance vehicle is still sitting over here.
Yeah.
It's still leaking grease and killing all plant and animal life that gets within 50 feet of it. And last time I looked at it, the driver's door was hanging open, swinging around in the wind. And I'm worried it's going to rust into the ground. And so I just want to make sure that that's brought up with them, as well as the crossing maintenance.
Include that in the email when I send that out.
And I had a conversation with the railroad, and they were, at least on the phone, the gentleman I spoke with was more than amicable. Just as soon as DOT could be out there, he could be out there. And then the subsequent emails seemed to go nowhere, but I'll follow up with him by phone tomorrow to let him know he's going to be getting an email, and see if we can't move that forward.
Let's just hope the holidays has put everybody behind, but they need to go ahead and take care of that past time. Okay, is there anything else y'all want to discuss on the snapshot? All right, item number 11 is update by board committees, by town board members, on board committees by town board members. The Fire Advisory Board, Commissioner Joyner.
Fire Advisory Board will meet this coming Thursday as a result of the weather last Thursday.
Okay. And Campo, I did not attend the last Campo meeting. I was sick with the flu. So I'll get some information from them at our next one that we go to. Commissioners' reports. We'll start with Commissioner Carroll.
No comment.
Commissioner Lutz.
None tonight.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right. Commissioner Boyette.
Oh, you know what I'm about to say.
Go ahead. I got on my red shirt, sweater, or coat.
How about that Wolfpack? Won our bowl game, beat Duke, all I needed for Christmas right there. That was it. I just want to congratulate the Wendell Rams, and it was nice to see them all come out tonight. It's nice to see everybody that comes out to the board meetings. They do seem like they're getting, we get a little more attention now than we used to. I don't like the meetings we come in and there's more people sitting up this side than are on that side, so that's nice. I would like to say thanks to everybody for the most part staying off the roads during the ice and snow. As excellent a job as town staff did plowing the streets and putting out brine beforehand and putting out salt and scraping after. You know, when school's out, it's a little bit easier to stay off the road. Just a reminder though, you know, the day that it snows, the day after it snows, everybody knows it's slick, all the roads are covered in snow. We don't normally have many accidents on those days. The accidents come when it starts to melt and you get 2 or 3 miles of dry road. You come around a shady corner and there's some ice there. And unfortunately, we had an accident on Robertson Pond Road today, or I believe overnight. It was a fatality, and speed and the icy conditions may have been part of that. And you know, another point is that you know Wake County is a large county, and that the weather we get over here isn't the same that you get in, well, Knightdale or North Raleigh or Cary or Apex or anywhere else. I know we got it a lot worse here than even Knightdale. You know, some parts of Knightdale had pretty much dried out days ago, and there was still the streets in my neighborhood that were completely covered in ice, and you know, it's too cold for it the salt to even melt it until today. And so everybody just be vigilant about that. I know it's the weather's changing again, so. But anyway, I just want to say thanks to town staff. They work really hard. Public Works worked really hard on the streets, and we all appreciate it.
Commissioner Joyner?
Echo the comments from Public Works staff. I was out shortly after them. However, I was going to get breakfast at Petey's, not to plow the roads. But later on that afternoon was out riding around slowly in my golf cart, which is an approved snow vehicle. And it was closer to 5 p.m. and the staff that I had gotten an email about earlier that day to say that they came to work at 4 a.m. were still out at 5 p.m. Pulling trailers and getting everything moved around town. If you go walk down the sidewalks on Main Street the day of the snow, they had those cleaned quite quickly, so I do need to thank Public Works staff on that. Also, I said I think 2 meetings ago that when I think something's right, I'm going to be the champion. When I think something's wrong, I'm going to be your most fierce advocate. The last Monday, and this board has sent letters and resolutions regarding Thompson Field, which is where the Wendell Rams play. And we began this process in October of 2016. We began it again most recently in September of this year. And I'm pleased to report, and I need to publicly thank Madam Chair Jessica Holmes, Commissioner Portman, Commissioner Ford, Commissioner West, who all spoke out vocally on protecting Thompson Field, and they all believe that that was important to Wendell. But to thank all the commissioners at large on their vote to prohibit the expansion moving forward.
That it? Thank you. I too wanted to thank the Public Works and the police for their efforts during the weather that we had last week. I really appreciated it. The Public Works guys were out there for hours and hours and hours, and I received a lot of compliments about it, and I hope you'll pass that along to them, Ms. Piner. We're getting ready to enter a real busy time here. We're getting ready to have our annual retreat in a few weeks, and our budget meetings, which will be numerous, will be starting soon. I'm looking forward to a great 2018, and great things are going to happen in Wendell next year, and that's it. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, for a motion.
All in favor?
Madam Mayor, motion.
Oh, make a motion. I'm sorry. I'm ready to go watch the football game. Hurry up.
Ben?
I was gonna make a motion not to adjourn.
Are we doing something to, okay, go ahead.
Madam Mayor, motion, go into closed session, General Statute 143-318.11-A5.
All right, so we have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor? All right. Make it quick. Okay. We on? Do we need to do it again?
Motion to go back in regular session.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This last